Good evening, everybody. This is your boy D Mac, and
Big J, Big J.
hey, so let's talk. But
Yes.
before we actually get into it, I want to encourage all of you who enjoy and support the content that you witness on this channel to share these videos, smash those likes, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and that bell so you can get all the notifications for incoming episodes. We're streaming on all major streaming platforms, so just type in Big J Let's Talk and listen to your favorite episodes. We appreciate every super chat donation as well as your time. So let's get into today's topic. How we doing, Jay?
Man, I'm doing cool, man. I'm excited. I'm ready to go. Just some things we're doing, trying to get the channel up and going and growing and our podcast. A little bit tired, man, but I'm ready to go, man. I miss talking sports with you and the people, man. Let's hit it.
Hey man, with what's going on today, I saw that Nikola Jokic has been named the MVP. So now we got our big men back on top.
No,
So
wait. I thought somebody else was named the MVP.
no, Jokic.
Are you serious?
Yes, Jokic
Oh
is the
man,
MVP.
I didn't
So
see that coming.
yes, they announced it to him. They were in their team meeting and they patched in and they announced it to him in the team meeting. Nikolai
Wow.
is the MVP. So now, with that being said, um, when I first joined Big J Let's Talk, this was during the time that LaMelo was destroying all of those reservations about his game, and the discussion of being soft in the middle, needing a big man, came up at the time. And as time went on and their lackluster low post game, it kept bringing up the question: how far can they go without a significant big man? And we seen what happened. They didn't go that.
Right. Facts.
So fast forward to now, the second round of the playoffs, you got Jokic being awarded the MVP. Embiid's performance the other night, 40-something points. And the subject of having a dominant big man comes up again. So my question is, can you win a championship without a dominant presence in the middle?
I don't believe so. And let me tell you why. If we predate and go back, all the major teams won championships with a big man. So
Mm-hmm.
if someone disqualifies my statement by saying LeBron won championships, LeBron is a big man actually who's playing a point forward position, but
Yeah.
LeBron is actually physically a big man. But if we go back to the Boston Celtics, Bill Russell, you have all those guys, man, back there. The Lakers had Kareem and Wilt.
Will David Robinson.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Yeah.
So all those players were big men. And in order to like Jokic is a big guy. If he ever gets what's necessary around him, they will win because he is a premier player right now. That's my opinion though.
Yeah, Jokic is definitely a premier player, and that will reinforce the conversation that we were having about them using him to bridge that global gap.
Facts.
Um,
Facts.
so his performance and his success from this point on is pretty paramount in what they're trying to do in that manner. So my next question, I guess, will be bridging the gap internationally, like through Jokic. Is this the NBA trying to entice the big men, particularly from overseas?
Yes, and I believe that because as we said today, the other day, and we specified that the international player is being sought after now because he brings a different quality to the game, like big man of old. He can not only can he low post, he can go outside and become a 3-point threat. But wait a minute, we also saw that in DeMarcus Cousin before he got hurt. DeMarcus Cousin was that type of player before he got hurt that any team would love to have outside of his attitude because he can step beyond the perimeter and hit that three, and he can go down low, and he can hit the soft 15-footer. So yes, I think a big man is necessary. He just because of his physical makeup and injuries, he just can't really help the Clippers.
Yeah, that's the big thing, the injuries, because
Yeah.
now as we get late into these playoffs, the only big men that we have left, let's see, we have Jokic, of course, we have Embiid, we have Giannis, we have Gobert, and I'll throw Andre Ayton in there simply because he's got to fight with Jokic, and if he can do something with Jokic, then that's gonna make his stock go up too. But
Facts.
The difference out of all of those guys that I just named, though, is that Embiid has Dwight Howard backing him up. He has
Yes,
some depth. He has another big guy to come in there so he can get out and get some rest and get his legs rested up, who can still make a difference.
that's
Those
true.
other guys don't have that coming behind them like that. And I'll go back to when we were talking about the Hornets and we were talking about Vernon Carey Jr. This is one of the things we were saying. Well, they're going to start reaching overseas looking for big guys. And now, fast forward, when their season ended, Cupcake came out and said, "Hey, we're looking for some big guys."
Yep.
So
I'm,
now,
Yeah, indeed, if you allow me to say this, it's just not that, man. There's so much going on in the NBA now that former players and current players are being exposed for their misbehavior. And the NBA needs to fix that, man. And the only way to fix it is go get those dominant big men from overseas who are quiet and who just plays basketball, brings their family, and they're good. Man, I just heard the news about Karl Malone, man. That broke my heart, man. It just jacked
yeah,
me up. You heard it too?
what?
Karl Malone, when he was in college, impregnated a 13-year-old girl.
Oh man, that's just a half of it, man. Carl Malone as a player
Yes,
was
man.
an awesome player, but Carl Malone as a person, uh, I choose not to say
Yeah.
anything bad or disrespectful, but he wasn't a really good person off the court.
Man, you ain't got to tell me, man. I was reading the article and I'm like, what? The
Yeah, yeah,
mailman? I was like,
yeah,
man. And
yeah.
so
Man.
that's what I'm saying, man. The NBA wants to clean up their reputation now. All these are giving them black eyes because some of these things you know about, and the way that I heard he approached Kobe Bryant's wife, I couldn't believe that.
Yeah, yeah, that guy's he's definitely a piece of work, and that's what goes back to say that we put these guys on a certain pedestal.
Facts.
We don't see them as the people that they actually are. So when we hear these stories, we're more likely to not believe it than we are to believe it until we've heard so many people say it over and over again.
Right.
So, these guys, I definitely understand them trying to clean up the image of the league. But at the same time, when you get these big men from overseas, because you have some guys over there that could definitely uh, be a big benefit to teams over here. But these are guys, like I was saying the other day, these are guys that they sent over there in the first place. So
Facts.
shouldn't they have just left these guys on their D League team or their G League team,
Yep.
just to have them ready instead of
Yep.
having to go now? They have to go buy them out of a contract
Right.
overseas
Right.
and do all of this extra that they could have avoided in the first place. And
Right. Facts.
that's the issue that I have because you have my nephew used to say DJ Steffens. He went from he played for the Grizzlies D League team. He also played for the Cavaliers developmental team.
Okay.
So he went overseas. He played with Le Mans for a while in France, and then he went to BC Prometey in the Ukraine Super League, and
Wow.
went over there. They got a team together, and their thing is fundamentals.
Right.
And
Facts.
those guys instantly they won their first championship, and this year they're going back for their second championship.
Wow.
And these guys are
Wow.
straight fundamentals. I got a chance to see a game today. They won 85-57 over Zaporizhia, and man, they you see 7 passes before somebody take a shot. Straight
Wow.
fundamentals. Big
Yeah.
guys with footwork like little guys, man. And that's what the NBA, of course, they're trying to get those guys with that clean image, but also that fundamental basketball back. Because, like I said, over here, they're bringing in this new run and gun, do your own thing style, and it's disrupting people's systems. And
Facts.
they like those fundamental players. That's why Jokic is such high value. That's why Doncic is such high value because they bring those fundamentals and they fit into your system.
Right. And the thing is, at such a young age, you're not talking about a guy who's 30 something, 40, who's played overseas and he's a has been. You're talking about
Exactly.
kids who are developed and ready to go by the time they hit the NBA, like Luca. You know what I'm saying? So
Exactly.
they're ready. I almost agree with what they're doing, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I can agree with it on some aspects, and then on other aspects, I'm like, once again, they could have saved themselves a whole lot of trouble because those guys were right here. They were on
Facts.
these D League teams. They were on these G League teams. They didn't want to pay them that money or whatever the case may be. That it didn't work out. These guys ended up overseas, and they're over here dominating and doing the same thing that they would do in the league over here if given the opportunity. So,
Yeah, and since
um,
you said that, I've been watching the Charlotte Hornets practice, right? And
yeah,
Nick Richards and Vernon Carey are
yes,
looking pretty good, man.
I was going there. You know where I was going then, huh?
They looking pretty good, man.
They are looking pretty good, man. We've talked about Vernon Carey Jr. already before, and we've discussed he's got it. He just needs some veteran in there to train him up to get him right. Now, I remember when they said that with Andrew Bynum, they brought in Kareem, and
Right,
Kareem made the difference in Bynum's being a dominant factor when he
right.
was. And,
Facts,
and I think if they do that with Vernon Carey Jr., I'm not Kareem in particular, but an older veteran,
facts.
somebody that can train that guy up, then he's going to be a next dominant force to come up out of the G leagues.
Right. Yeah, you're right. You're right, 100%, man. And see, the NBA is going through what we were talking about earlier. Distractions make you better, and they make you stronger. When any sports association experiences anything like the mess that came out with Carl Malone today, or the
Mhm.
stuff with Kwame Brown, it
Yeah,
only makes the league stronger. Here's what idle mind individuals don't realize: sometimes you push, and your pushing is only making these type of associations stronger, because if you're not happy and don't want to see the play, those individuals who live here from overseas, guess what they're going to start doing? They're going to start filling the arenas. I'm
yeah,
telling you, man, I see the handwriting on the wall. D, I see it.
yeah. It's true, and because this thing with Karl Malone, I've heard this over the years, and I've kind of researched it a couple times, and it's like the deeper that I go, like the worse it gets. So I just kind of I say, I'm gonna leave that alone. It's the story's not good, man. Like I said, the more you get into his story, the worse it kind of gets as time goes on. So it's not like Mike Tyson's story where he went through his stuff and learned, and now he's a better
Right,
man. No, Carl Malone
right.
still. I'll leave that alone. But um,
Yeah, I heard him say,
getting away from that, yeah,
I,
getting away from that image is
okay,
important, man.
yeah,
Because for one, they love to push. That's that talking point that everyone uses to bash a black man down as
yes,
being a deadbeat father
yes.
and all of the things that they just showed through Carl Malone today. That's just reinforcing that stereotype. So we have to get rid of those types of things.
But if I go back and I bring up factual information, would I be wrong? And when I say go back, if I go back to slavery, see, everything in life is based on genetics. I don't care what anyone say. Our
Yeah,
gene,
absolutely.
our gene pool dictates what goes on in our life with who we are and what we are. That's my premise of understanding. And let me tell you why I say that. If we go back to the plantation, right? And
Hmm.
we understand that that woman was called a Jezebel because that woman had nice lips and she was kind of thick and a derriere that was off the chain. So what happened when the master wanted that woman, what he would do was separate the husband from the wife and send him down to another form to children more kids, to father more children. So what it does now that becomes an evolution of dominance through separation. Am I wrong?
No, you got a point there. What's happening, Adam? How we doing today, man?
What's going on,
Uh,
Adam?
Adam says, God bless Big J and D Mac. Much love to you, brothers. I got a question for y'all. Would y'all say Tim Duncan is the best power forward to ever play the game?
No. He, he,
I can't say the best. He's in my top three. He's not the best though.
in my opinion, the best two big men to play power forward were Kevin Garnett and Carl Malone. But that's my opinion. Let's take Carl Malone antics away from the equation. If you look at Carl Malone as a player, he was very dominant. He was a LeBron James as a power forward to the point he commanded that lane to be open when he came down court, dribbling from end to end. Tim Duncan never did that. Tim
Nah,
Duncan was Tim Duncan was on a team that team grew together and they became winners together. But Karl Malone, man, in Utah, oh no, no one can deal with that man.
nah, nah. Karl Malone was definitely, yeah, he was a force to be reckoned with. For me, and this is gonna be a little bit, um, I don't know. People might say whatever, whatever, but Rasheed Wallace was always my dude, man.
Oh yeah, man.
Rasheed Wallace, man, just because he was a dog, man, he came from Carolina, so he already get
Oh
a
yeah,
he
man.
already get a check mark from me for that. But not just that, it was his attitude in the game. Rasheed Wallace came in the game like he was a veteran. When
He
he
could hit
came from North Carolina into the game, he came in like a veteran and they respected him like he was a veteran because that's how he carried himself. Now, overall, game wise, Tim Duncan was more sound. Absolutely, 100%, because that bank
facts.
shot of his was just ridiculous. Um, but but yeah, Rasheed Wallace was my guy, man.
And then I would say that Rasheed Wallace had a complete game as a big man. He could step just like Tim Duncan. Rasheed could step outside and drop that three, man, with his gray black hair like it wasn't nobody's business. Then
Yeah,
he can go to the hole like it was nobody's business. Then his free throw percentage was very high. He was a
yeah.
clutch shooter, man, and his attitude just made him dominant.
Yes, exactly. Exactly, man. That was him and Stackhouse Stackhouse, Vince Carter, and it was one more guy that came out with him, Antoine, I forgot the guy name, man, but it was four that came out of Carolina
Right.
that
I know you're talking
year,
about.
man. They
Yeah, I
were
know you're talking
all
about.
some rim rockers. So
Yes.
but man, I,
Yep.
I love the big men and I love where the league is going. I love that the attention is being brought back to the big man. I know Shaq is sitting somewhere just grinning from ear to ear. His ears is wet, you know, because the big man is back in the light. But it's
Yep.
it's it's necessary because I go back to what I said in the beginning. It's showing that you can do all you want to in the regular season, but it all comes down to your point guard and your
Yep.
big man.
All day
If you
long.
don't have a big man in the middle going into those late rounds of the playoffs, you're not going to last that long. So that's what
Yep.
we're looking at now.
Yep. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I'm looking at Adam comments. Adam said, and isn't Karl Malone number two on the all-time scoring list for most points? You're 100% right.
Hmm.
Scored every in a game. I think only Kareem Abdul-Jabbar has him beat. You're 100% right. The mailman and John Stockton were a great duo. The funny thing is, those individuals on the court, they were a match made in basketball. Off
Yes.
the off the court, they had nothing in common. But on the court, yes, they were a match made. So when I talk with Karl Malone, you can't talk most power forwards without mentioning their point guard. So watch this. Who was the point guard with Tim Duncan?
Uh, Tony Parker.
Exactly. But see, you hesitated.
Yeah.
If you say, if you say who's the point guard with Karl Malone, everybody gonna say John Stockton. I don't
Yeah.
care how old
Yeah.
you are. But when I
Yeah.
say who's the point guard of other teams, hey, people freeze. Like if I say who's the point guard of Kareem's team, that should be automatic.
Magic.
Right, exactly. But you hiccuped.
Magic. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, D.
But yeah, and I was doing like a comparison because I put down a couple of big man names from back then and a couple now just to kind of do a comparison with these guys. And I had Kareem, I had
Right.
Bill Russell, I had
Facts.
Will Chamberlain, I had Shaquille, and I had David Robinson.
Yes.
Now, guys that we have today, I'll say Miles Turner, Andre Drummond, Rudy Gobert, Embiid, and the MVP Jokic.
Not
Now,
Drummond. Not
now,
Drummond.
yeah, I was about to scratch Drummond out there, but I didn't have enough time to switch him. But So, but with that core of guys, man, and I'm looking at these guys. What's the difference between these guys? It's that drive, and I think it goes back to that point where they were saying that these guys that's coming in, that they don't have that hunger or that thirst to win as much as the guys back then did.
See the players from overseas. I'm sorry, but I have to call them privileged. When I say privileged, they don't go what through a lot of players go through here in the NBA as far as the struggling and certain things. So some of them come privileged and they feel like they automatically fit in. That's just my personal opinion. But when I look at the players now, man, it is almost I want to use the right word. These individuals right now don't do anything for me as far as big men. I'm sorry, most of them don't. It's because they're not dominant. The big men now have become so used to standing out at the perimeter and taking the three to where they're not dominating the lane. Watch this. The Clippers are playing a box and one. And a
Mm-hmm.
boxing one defense does this. It covers the middle and it's a half man to man and a half zone. All right. The Clippers were playing it amazingly at first. Then when they went away from it, meaning their big man is suspect, like Devontae Graham is suspect, and you have to hide him because watch this. Your boy Boogie Cousins, he can't move anymore.
Mm. And that get exposed right there.
Yep.
And that's why I say when it comes down to these times, this is what exposes where your weak points are, and that's why it's so important to have some depth on the bench because these guys are playing late, and everybody's hurt. Almost
Yep.
everybody is playing with some type of injury, whether it's first degree, second degree, third degree. Everybody's with playing with some type of bruise or bump, and it's pretty much who's gonna endure to the end. But I have another question for you.
Okay.
So with uh with Jokic winning the MVP, and if they go ahead and they win the championship, does this mean the stock in big men is going to go up? Are they going to really pay good money to get these big men from overseas?
No, because here's the thing: the game of basketball has changed with everyone now running this freelance offense to where there's really no big man needed. Now in the West, we don't see what the East is doing. The East is trying to push the pace, so they're running that same offense that the Hornets is running. Everybody's a point forward. You don't really need a power forward or a big man. But what the big man does, his job is to keep the big man from the other team out at the perimeter so those individuals can dominate. So no, I don't think it's going to happen. Me personally,
Well, it's going to be interesting to see because that's just another way that the league is changing. The need for a big man, like I said, Kupchak came out and said, "Hey, we need some experience at the big man spot. They have some young lions, but they need some experience back there to bring them up to par." And other teams that have fallen out, it seems like most of the teams that have been knocked out early, they were lacking a real serious big man.
right? But I'm gonna share something after I read what Adam's comment. Let me do it before I read his comment. Denver will not win. I don't care how good Jokic is. They're just not going to win. But no, is Denver in it? Yeah, Denver's in it. But
Yeah,
I don't think they're going to win. The Suns is going to blow them out. The Suns are that team that has a big man, but they're undersized as far as weight. They don't have anything in their back pockets, but they still can play because they go hard in the paint. They go very hard. Let me read Adams, if that's all right, D.
yeah,
If
yeah.
I think if Karl Malone didn't play in the Michael Jordan era, the mailman and John Stockton would have won multiple NBA final championships. That is a fact. That is 100% a fact. Michael Jordan shut a lot of people down. If he wasn't there, Charles Barkley would have won. Akeem Olajuwon would have won more. Mike just said, watch this. Every New York team was a balling team, but who shut him
Yeah.
down? Mike.
Mike.
Hey, good to hear and see you nine. And
Hey, what's going on, Nine? What Nine have to say? Said, is baseball better today than it was in the past?
no, I don't
Um,
cuss.
concerning what? I mean, as far as pay, as far as how they treat the players, as far as the protections. I would say that baseball, every sports industry is evolving at this time, and we're seeing it mostly in basketball, I guess, because that's the sport that's going right now. And I'm sure when football season starts, we're going to see some things in football that's going to be different. Be like, oh, what is this? Well, there's the new evolution going on in every sports industry. And I think it's going to better the game. It has to, because, like I was saying before, if it stays the same that it always was, it's going to be like boxing. Boxing is dying out because boxing refuses to change its formula. The same old promoters doing the same old scamming over the fighters. It's tiring. People are getting tired and it's running out. So the game has to evolve. If it doesn't, then it's going to lose its luster like boxing has.
No, baseball has actually died over the years. It looks better. The stadiums are better. But you have to remember, we have too much cheating has gone on in baseball in the last, I say the last 15, 20 years. So in that, the evolution of baseball has not happened, and I don't think it will happen. Actually, the game is going backwards. Hold on one second.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
now
game.
it says, is the product better?
No, no.
No, no.
Growing up in Los Angeles, and my father having season Dodger tickets from a kid, I was there at every game. I watched the Willie McCoveys that come in. I watch see right now kids who are playing little league and other things know these guys, but it's not like it was back then to where everyone was known. There was not one dominant team. All teams were dominant because every team had a superstar or multiple superstar. If you ask kids now, they can't tell you anything about Steve Sachs. And does that matter? Yes, it does. Because history is the changing point for anything. They can't tell you about Ron Say, Steve Garvey, Davey Lopes. They can't tell you about Eddie Murray coming in playing third base, leaving Baltimore. So the game was more exciting. And now with basketball and some other things really evolving, as D says, yes, the door to the mainstream understanding of baseball is closing 100%.
Dana White from the UFC said something interesting, and I'm kind of seeing his point in it. When they asked him why he doesn't pay UFC fighters like they pay fighters in boxing, he says because he incentivizes the fights so that his fighters will stay hungry. Because if you give them too much too soon, they won't want to fight anymore and they'll lose their hunger. And I kind of see that in a sense because a lot of these guys, once they get that payday, they lose their hunger. Yeah, it's good to have a championship, but if you got millions and millions of dollars, that's something that Kwame Brown was. He was one of his biggest boasting points was, y'all call me a bust, but I made this much money. So these guys are able to finesse a lot of money and not really win any championships or titles and really don't care to because their whole goal was to make some money in the first place.
Yeah, see, one of the worst places that you can have free agency is in Major League Baseball. That ruins the complete complexity of the game. Basketball, cool. Football, cool. But baseball, no. Baseball is America's pastime. It is
Mhm.
America's sport. And in my opinion, too much has gone on too fast. The players, if you watch this, the narrative of the players over the last 20 years have completely changed. You have more little kids who dads have them in little league and traveling ball who are really into baseball. I'm gonna say it again. Hey, it used to be American pie. It was American. Hey, it was America's pastime. Everybody went to a baseball game. Everybody played baseball in your community, on the concrete, on the grass. Every child had a bat. Every child had a glove. Something else.
Yeah, that's true. I had mine. My dad tried to get me into it, but it just really wasn't my sport. Let's see what Nine has to say. He says, so the influx of foreigners didn't make the baseball better. It has gotten worse. We're watching the NBA erode in our eyes, and we blame everything but not the outsourcing of the game.
Facts.
Um,
He's right. He's right. But see, nine, if I can say this, it is our fault for certain players in the NBA, the stigmatisms and the things that have went on. Watch this. You don't have too many major league baseball, NBL baseball players who are retiring broke. But when you look at the basketball and what's going on, and you see players now on drugs, players who made millions of dollars and who are broke now, players who just don't give a care. And I'm telling you, it's far different from baseball. So I'm not going to say that the players from overseas are those players, because the Dominican Republic has always been a part of American baseball. Always. So you
Yeah.
can't separate that. We can go back past Pedro Martinez. They have always been. Don't forget, Pedro Martinez excited baseball. He made it fun. He and his brother. See, I'm speaking from a perspective of a Major League Baseball fan. So I think the difference is free agency. And I think free agency has given baseball a black eye.
Once the game started being dictated by dollars and incentive bonuses and things like that, that's when the game started to get tainted. And that's football, basketball, baseball, boxing, whatever other sports you want to throw, air hockey, whatever sport you want to throw in there. Once dollars and the marketing value and all of those things came into play, this gave guys the incentive to miss a shot here and there. This
Yeah,
gave
and you
guys the incentive to miss a tackle that would have stopped them from getting that first down and to hit the point spread. All of these things came out of that whole capitalism point of view that was placed on these athletes.
and you're right.
And
And you're right. And you're right. Let me say this, D. We got to understand, when Ken Griffey played ball, after his dad played ball, I was a Ken Griffey fan. I had not, yeah, Ken Griffey Jr. I had every sports card, every hat back then, every jersey, anything I could own of Ken Griffey Jr., I had it, because he was just a phenomenal player who just loved the game. But Alex Rodriguez really messed the game up if you know anything about Major League Baseball. Remember, Alex Rodriguez was the first major player to receive that. I think it was 190, oh no, $200 million. A Rod, I'll never forget that. It changed the game of baseball forever. Ken Griffey Jr. solidified the sport from an outfield and left handed batter who just mesmerized the crowd. But A Rod, he broke the bank and changed the game forever. Let me read straight A student. Would you agree that if you are a black superstar in the NBA, you will not want to play for the Boston Celtics because Boston has history of mistreating African Americans? Look at Bill Russell. I'm gonna let you work on that one first, D. Then I go after you.
yes, because the same as the Lakers, you're going to play for them because they're the Celtics. And you're going to play for the Lakers. You're going to go and play with LeBron because they're the Lakers. Those names are very high on the, like I said, high on the tier. And people are going to go where the money's going to take them. You know, that in the business aspect of it, whether it's Boston, there's a lot of guys you'd imagine probably didn't want to be in Boston, but that's where the money, the best deal for them, it made sense for them and their family, and that's where they went. So you know, people might not prefer to go somewhere, but sometimes you have to do what you have to do. And as far as them mistreating African Americans are mistreated all across this country. It's not just in Boston. We've heard stories about in Kansas City how the Chiefs how their crowd can be towards people. We heard about Philly. We've heard about all of these different types of crowds who are very um, cantankerous, I should say. um, but this is all across the country. So we're going to have to bear that type of behavior and ignorance anywhere we go in any of these organizations, not just Boston in particular.
I personally don't think that's the case. I think Boston is that blue collar town where baseball has always been revered and basketball and reverence, even down to baseball. So, because if I call basketball, I have to look at Big Daddy over in baseball with the Red Sox too, and they loved him to life. So what am I saying? Boston, if you notice their team and look at the projections that they give out to the fans, they don't like that high celebrity, glossy type of player with a lot of bling, 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 bling. If you look at the African Americans who played for Boston outside of a few lately, they're just blue collar players. They come to work, do their thing. You don't see too many of them on commercials. They're not highlighted. So Boston is that. Give me my beer, man. Let's go hang out. Come on, man. Let's go to the club, man, and talk some sports. So those individuals don't like that brash. I don't think LeBron James will do good in Boston, but Boston has always been that place, man, to where they don't celebrate. If I could say the white collar worker in basketball, because we have the gatekeepers, which we would call the white collar workers, that they celebrate. Man, it's that guy who goes to work, come home. What was that? Hey, D Money. I mean D Money. That was my old name. D Mac. What was that player's name who played for the Philadelphia Eagles, who was a wide receiver and he used to work in a bar and he got a tryout and ended up making it. I can't.
Oh
I gotta go
wow.
find it. See,
Yeah, yeah.
that's their type of player. That's their type of hero. They want someone that looks like them so they can identify. So you have those players from back in that day. Danny Ainge, Dennis Johnson. Dennis Johnson, he was a player. He was not white or black. He was a player. You had all those guys. Robert Parrish, he wasn't white or black. So those guys were like blue collar players. And that's what makes the difference. Boston does not want brass players who gonna come in there. AI could have never played in Boston. It wouldn't have worked. It just practice. And I know that's not what he meant, but they would have made a bigger deal. It's just practice.
I don't know because you have two Bostons. You have the Bill Burr side of Boston, which is the outskirts, and then you have the Whitey Bulger Boston. You know what I'm saying? Where they had the mob stuff and everything was going on in the inner city. So those are two different crowds right there. I think AI might have squeaked through in Boston just because he had that attitude of a Boston type person. I think they would have linked with his attitude related with him. But let's see what Nine Say says. So why do we complain about Americans losing jobs to Mexicans, foreigners, but we endorse our sports team doing the same? Because it's the double standard. We have selective outrage in this country about certain things because we're some of the biggest hypocrites in the world. But that's neither here nor there. That's pretty much why we do what we do. Um, I've never as a coach told my players to do something that I wouldn't do myself. If my players ran, I ran with my players. If my players did push up, I did a few with them. I wasn't going to do all of them with them, but I do them with them just to show them that I'll do it too. I'm not going to ask you to do something that I wouldn't do. But that's something that our country needs to pick up on. That's just my opinion.
Let me say this. Nine, and again, I didn't receive the information about your company because Nine has a business that he owns, and we want to put him on a platform and recognize his business. But let me say this: I think, from a perspective of agreeing with your case, that's based on individualism because
Yeah.
I don't believe that, and I don't think that. What I think is this: I coach sports for my son when he started was 6. I put him in flag football, coached him all the way through high school, baseball, basketball, football. When he played football in high school, all the way up to JV till he went to music. All right. And what I did, I had kids from every nationality: Filipino, Latino, Latino, African. I had kids from everywhere, man. And the best kid got the position, not based on color, not based on speed. The best kid got the position. And I think this country is missing the fundamental understandings of democracy. We are so living in a monarchy in certain places that we're forgetting who and what we are. But if we go back and pull the curtain back and look at everything and just say, why am I here? Why are these? And that's where the economics have changed a lot of sports. That's why I say baseball, everyone, the economics is not the same. So, no, the level of competition is not the same. That's why you just had a team, I'm not going to mention their names, a couple of years ago who was stealing signals and who were cheating. These were
Absolutely.
these weren't ghetto players.
Mm, well. Um, it says here, so complaining about Americans losing jobs to Mexicans foreigners, we endorse our sports teams doing the same. Um, yeah, these guys, everything falls under the spectrum of making that dollar. And so that goes back to what I was saying. Now, this is going off topic a little bit because I want to talk about Deandre Ayton a little bit. Um, he showed up for him a little bit, and that's going to be a battle now, especially now that Jokic was named the MVP. So they're starting to put some attention on this DeAndre Ayton and Jokic battle. So if DeAndre Ayton shuts Jokic down, what does that do for DeAndre Ayton?
Yeah, that's a good point. I would love to hear someone in the room. I'm on that one
I
because
mean, because if Jokic is he's our most valuable player, he's our MVP, he's that guy, and if Aiton comes in and just totally dominates him, that's gonna make Aiton stock go up for one thing. So I think he'll be being looked at by a lot of other teams as well. Um, so those guys are gonna have to get their pennies in order to make him another offer because I think he has what it takes to really shut Jokic down if he want to. What do you
but
think?
but let me ask you a question. Who makes or calls out the MVP? It's not the players.
No, it's that group of judges.
The media. All those individuals are media and alumni. So
Hmm.
guess what? With the power of control and persuasion, Jokic to me is not the MVP. But
No,
again, the MVP, the NBA is trying to change the look so they can get more international players and end up playing overseas with an NBA team. Watch.
so
It's
who
just a
who
couple of
was
years.
who was the MVP to you?
In my opinion,
Yeah,
I didn't select one D. I just
you
didn't
know
see it. I
you
didn't
know
see
who
it.
mine was.
Ooh,
Mine was Steph Curry.
okay.
Mine, mine was Steph Curry for the simple fact that um Clay been down for a minute
Right.
and some injuries happen here and there. And Steph has been carrying that team. Yeah, he has Draymond, and he might have another player that'll show up for sporadically throughout games and stuff. But overall, that guy was carrying it, and whatever his team needed, he always showed up with it. But because he does it on such a regular basis, it was people are desensitized to what he was actually doing.
Right.
Um, and it's just Steph again scoring 50. Oh, it's Steph
Hmm.
again doing, and it kind of devalued what he was doing. But that was my pick. Steph to me was the MVP.
Let me tell you why he couldn't have been my pick. For the same reason as James Borrego could have never been my coach of the year. You had a rookie on your team who was top selected in the top five, and that rookie ended up making a lot of mistakes, and that rookie ended up hurt and some other things. I believe if you are a leader on the team, it should be your job to take that rookie under your umbrella and make sure that that rookie produces. And I believe that's what Miles Bridges did with LaMelo Ball and others. You know what I'm saying? But for me, I see. Remember we were talking about the gatekeepers, D,
Yeah.
and we said that I don't think James Wiseman is ever going to be the same until he's
No.
traded.
Come to think of it, Steph has never really had to put anybody under his wing.
Yep.
Come to look at everybody since he came to that team, yeah, he's had strong role players, but they've always had those veterans there that stepped up and took that role. Steph never had to like take anybody under his wing and be like big bro. Yeah,
Right.
that's true. That's so true.
Yeah. So that's the only reason I couldn't give it to him because he won with Clay. Yes, he's ball. Yes, he got 50. Yes, he did this. But without Clay, he can't do anything. So who was the real MVP on that team? Mm.
So you saying if Clay was not hurt and Steph was hurt, Clay would be able to carry him there?
No, 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 no. Well, I'm saying sometimes there are teams who had dual players, dual
Yeah,
threats.
yeah, yeah.
Together, they're dual threat. with just Draymond Green, no. This is why I said Steph should have took Wiseman under his belt from the beginning. Steve Kerr, leave him alone. Steph, you take him. You take him wherever you go, whatever happens. You train and you develop him. You make sure he stays tied to your hip because this is a future prospect who was drafted in the top five. It's like
But
these some
then,
of these teams, man, they just don't have any respect for these kids, man.
but then that goes back to is he that corporate type?
Right.
Is he one of the ones that they'll say, okay, he's good, we can let him in? Maybe these are some of the things that are holding these prospects back that are not being spoken on the surface.
Facts.
Because we
Facts.
know they're not going to say that on the surface. Well, he's not marketable. He's not what we're looking for. He's not the clean. They'll say it in so many words, and you'll have to read between the lines to hear what they're saying. But they're not just going to come out and say that about these guys. So, in a lot of these cases, that could be what it is. It's just not. They're not the they're not one of the guys.
Right. And that's what we've been talking about. Now watch this again. Devin Booker been in the NBA for 6 years. Now he's the man because he's been accepted by the gatekeepers. They've let him in. So now guess what? Now it's going to be his job to take somebody, train somebody. Once he wins an NBA championship, watch. Now he will assume that role. Oh,
Exactly.
let me make this announcement to everyone. We're going to make sure that we put this in our podcast. I like today's show, sponsored by DMAC. So this will be in podcast on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, everywhere that there's you can catch us on the podcast. Okay, let me see what Nani said.
Absolutely. And another thing, if you haven't already, go ahead and smash those likes if you came in and share this video and hit that subscribe button. Let's get us up to 3K real quick.
Yes, sir. Nine says high usage guards don't want to play with a true center. He's right. I'm sorry. He's right.
I don't
Because
see why though. I mean, that would be the perfect scenario. High usage guard on I would get tired at some point. You got the Trey Young. Trey Young needs that big guy that he can dump it off to down low because sometimes you seen Kawhi's legs after that one game. Same thing with Dame Lillard. His legs got tired. Them guys get tired, and they can't keep running night after night like that at that high level. So they need to be able to take some of that pressure off, be able to dump it down low to that big man so that they can ease up off of themselves and be able to stretch themselves out through the series.
yeah, I think what he's saying, D, is a true center is an old time center. Somebody who's down low, and if they don't have a shot, they kick it out. See, now
Yeah,
with everybody running that box and one defense, you don't need a big man if people are going to run that defense. You need shooters. I think there's a game tonight. Watch the game tonight, and you'll see what I'm saying. Everybody's running that box and one defense, so you need shooters because without shooters, you can't win.
let's see. That's where I would take advantage of them right there because everybody's going to one thing, and I love to go against the grain, and it would totally take people off of their game because the same thing, the way that Kawhi beat Doncic was he made Doncic play a defensive game and think defensively the whole game instead of concentrating on his offense. And that's what they're gonna have to do now. So when you get these guys in these situations, if you come out and hit them hard in the beginning and get them on their heels, and have them thinking defensively from the beginning of the game and don't get into their offensive rhythm, then that's how you can get these guys, catch them off guard and steal a couple games.
Yeah, see, but nine, I agree with you, nine. But let me say this: if you have a team like the Charlotte Hornets, right? You got Biz and you got Cody Zeller. Those are not traditional centers. I don't know what they are. But if you look at other teams, right, Brooklyn, right, no center, correct. Because everybody on Brooklyn team, the big men are centers. They can play the center position. But again, going back to Charlotte, the problem with them is you still need a big man, but you need a big man based on rotation who can move, who would actually play like a four. So it's like you having two fours on the floor, but one of the floors can actually rim protect when you go down, and when you go on defense, he can actually grab rebounds. I remember Dennis Rodman at times used to have to play center. I don't know if
Yeah,
anybody's my
yeah,
age, but
yeah,
Dennis Rodman used
absolutely.
to have to play center. Why? Because Phil Jackson would use him because of his mobility, and he can outrun most people. He can rebound and kick it out. So nine, I agree with you, but it has to be the right fit. And I believe you
Yeah,
said that right here.
yeah, you're absolutely right about that. He said, look at Brooklyn, no center. Look how formidable that offense looks. But KD can double as a center, though. I mean, the guy is what, 6'10"? KD
Yep.
6'10"?
Hmm.
But he has the handles of a guard,
Right.
so KD can definitely be your center at any given time.
Facts.
And that's how I look at him, like a center, power forward type of guy, or even a three. I mean, the dude is he's that good. And the way his body is built, he can maneuver in those three different lanes. So,
Yep. Facts. That's the truth. That is the truth, 100%. And it's again, it's just knowing your offense and knowing your defense. If I was Charlotte, I'm getting rid of Cody Zeller and Biz. I like both players, but
yeah,
you need. I'm gonna be honest with you. I wouldn't even play Vernon Carey based on that offense, which is running good. I would play Nick Richardson. He has a
really.
slender body. He's just as tall, and he got hops, and he can run. That's just me. I don't think the traditional center is going to work with a lot of teams because watch this with this positionless offense now, to where you don't need a point guard. This is why they're trying to get LaMelo Ball to run the point forward. Everybody on the team is going to run the point forward except Devontae Graham and Terry Rozier. They're going to run the point forward,
Yeah,
floor. Yeah,
yeah.
the center in a minute will be obsolete, and it shouldn't be, but it will be because I like the old Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I like all that, but just I don't know. A center
But
will
if
work
you
for Charlotte,
Yeah, but if you can get a guy that's 6'6", but he's got the wingspan of 7 foot, and
right?
he's got great timing, so he's a
Right.
great blocker in the inside.
Facts.
This means
Facts.
you got a guy who can maneuver around and do a lot of things. Plus, he's got the wingspan to clog up and block some stuff and obstruct stuff in those lanes.
Right.
And this is the new big guy that we're talking about. So when we say big guy, we're not looking at the Shaqs and stuff like that no more. They have a whole different build and a whole different look. That's why that earlier question about sports evolving, or yeah, the game is always going to evolve. It has to evolve because we as people evolve. The
Facts.
athlete, look at the buildup of athletes today as compared to back in the day. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it's like these dudes are chiseled Adonises nowadays. It's crazy. They look like they're supposed to be in model magazines and stuff. That's what they do in their off time and stuff. But it's just based on the time that we're in and how things are evolving. So, you know, the sport's gonna grow, everything's gonna evolve, and we're gonna adjust to it. Nobody likes change in the beginning, but once you adjust to it, then you're okay with it, just like any other time. And
Yeah, and nine, I agree with you. But they don't need a center who has no hands, who fumbles the ball completely, who can't run. No, I do believe they have a center. But in my opinion, they need someone like Nick Richardson who has the body type to get out and run. The body, and he has great hands, very soft hands. Then he can block shots. Then he can rebound. Yes, but he's more like a forward with a center body. So yes, I agree with you 100%.
and they need a veteran there to develop carry,
Hmm.
because the same, and I'll go back to what I said earlier, the same way they did with Andrew Bynum. They need to bring in one of those OG centers to take Vernon Carey through another boot camp, a old school OG fundamental boot camp.
But you know what Andrew Bynum told Kareem, I don't need your help. I know this already. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's
Big
what he
time.
told him. And then what did Kareem do to him? He turned around and showed him that sky hook.
Yep. Yep. And it
And,
worked.
and man, it did. That changed that dude's game.
That's
Him and
what I was.
Kobe.
I'm sorry, D. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, no, I was just gonna say him and Kobe became like a little tandem for a minute because
Right.
of what Kareem showed that kid.
Yeah. I wish I wish Kwame Brown would get Andrew Bynum on his show. That would be a nice one because Kwame said he trained and developed Andrew Bynum. I would love to see that. I would love to see them talk. That would be phenomenal if he can get him on his show. The ratings would go through the roof. Man, if he could hook up with that
Absolutely.
brother.
You know,
Man,
it's funny because the other day, somebody had suggested that Kwame Brown and Matt Barnes be on the next undercard fight for Mayweather and them. I told you it was gonna start circulating out there, man. He's running
look,
out of ideas. Everything is losing its luster now,
yeah,
and
big time.
he's gonna
Yeah,
be pretty soon. He's gonna be doing Dancing with the Stars, man.
Kwame said he can't fight. He said, but he gonna jump on you like a trampoline. I
I
wouldn't want
believe
you.
him. He could,
I'd rather fight than you jump on me like a trampoline. That means
but
somewhere you gonna go crazy, lose your mind by jumping. Nah, let's just square up.
look, man, he from right down the road where I grew up, and I was in North Carolina. He was in
Okay,
South Carolina.
okay.
I know how them South Carolina boys rock. Believe me, so he ain't
Mm-mm,
lying one bit.
mm-mm. That would be nice. Hey, we want to thank everyone for joining on with us today. We're trying to start doing it in an hour so I can make sure that our podcasts are where they need to be, marketed correctly because we're in 48 countries right now. So you can get online and check us out on our podcast. Go into iTunes and just type Big J Let's Talk. Go into any iHeart, Spotify, Stitcher, anywhere, and you'll be able to hear this in the morning about this afternoon after it's edited. Go ahead, D. Close us out.
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in, and I want to thank everybody for your questions and interacting with us. We always love you. We thank you for the likes and for the subscribes that are coming. Um, and I want to give a special shout out to Simone Biles because she won her seventh nationals title, and this
Wow.
one makes her the most decorated female in any sport. So congratulations to Simone Biles. We love you and we're proud of you.
Thank everybody in the room. You guys are amazing. We got one more comment, D. Nine, make sure I get your information, bro, so we can shout you out because what's going on with the podcast, we're everywhere. So I just want to make sure we get the information so I can shout you out. All right. Thank everybody who's been in the room. As D said again, we're about to see you guys a little bit later. We will be on very soon. Maybe, no, not what's tomorrow? Thursday? Might be
Yeah.
tomorrow. Depends on what D comes up because now he is a part of scheduling our shows. So again, we'll talk to you later. Have a great one.